DevOps is about simplifying the process of creating software. A very common practice is to leverage monolithic applications. Microservices is a new approach to building software, where you decouple your application logic into so-called services. This enables decoupling of the infrastructure, which enables higher resilience and high productivity, since developers only need to focus on their service instead of the entire infrastructure. The big question becomes, how do we split it into smaller logical services? In this tutorial, we'll show you how to leverage Docker Kubernetes in a Google Kubernetes engine cluster to build a small microservice infrastructure. The application we will be building is a to-do app. The repo will be in the description below. The services that we will be building is a front end of MongoDB database and a to-do service. In the repo, you will see a folder for each service. Each service has a Docker file and a couple of YAML files as well. The Docker file describes how the service will be contained and ran. The YAML file describes how they will deploy to the Kubernetes cluster. Since the application is a microservice architecture, we will need to deploy each service on their own, starting with a database. First, get to the DB service directory, and then go to the Kubernetes directory. Do kubectl apply, then you can do get pods to see what pods are up and running. Then you can do get services to see what IP addresses are up and running. A Kubernetes cluster runs each container in a pod, which in this case are described in deployment YAML files, and pulls the Docker images from a container registry. We need to push and create Docker images, tag it, and push it to a container registry. In my case, I'll use Google's. Change the names to reflect the newly created images. Firstly, we create a Docker image called to do. We then tag it with our GCR link. We then push it to GCR. Now we're going to push it to Kubernetes. You can use get services to see what IP addresses are up. You will now have to repeat these steps for to-do service, auth service, and front-end service. You will then need to change each of the env variables in each of the deployment files to the IP addresses that correspond to the specific service that you're thinking of. The final product will look something like this, where you will first need to log in to your thing, and then you will be able to add your own to-do list, okay? Boom. As you will see, we leverage two different services, one for logging in and one for creating the to-do list. The take-home message is, a service should represent a small part that can be broken out of the entire application logic. What you can do right now is to look at something like Netflix and think, how would they split their entire application into smaller services? Thank you for your time.